Okay, this will be my, second part that never really came out. Sorry. This is on making a weapon and just generally everything about the weapon itself instead of just being a quick overview. So we have a model here. I'm going to turn into a weapon. As you can see, this isn't, the most complex model. I mean, you can really make anything into one. You can make a brick a model, so long as you name it handle. That's the first step. Naming your main model handle. If you have anything under it, for example, if you wanted to do kind of like this, where there's two things in it, but you don't want it to be, connected because you can't name both handle, just put the part into the handle and weld it. To weld things, you would just go to model, create, weld. You just click on the part you want to weld to it, and it creates a weld between the two parts. When you have your model and you call it handle, and you do all the extra steps, whatever you want to go into this, and you are going to want to turn can collide off, anchored off, massless on. You do this with the other part if you haven't, because you want both to be the same. And if you don't have any other parts, you don't have to worry about it. Now drag handle into lighting, and then drag it into weapons. Here's the actual weapon creation part. You're going to want to duplicate this stick, and when you're done, put the stick in workspace right away, just so you don't confuse it with the other one and delete the wrong one. Once you've put the stick in, grab your model that you made, your handle, grab your handle, and just put it right next to where the weapon is, just so you have it on standby. So this is practically the weapon. It's the model of the weapon and everything about it. So in the first subsection, before tool is open, you'll see the cost of the weapon. This is obviously the cost if it was in a store. This is the description of the weapon. So this is what appears in the description. This is if it is on sale or not. The check mark means it is on sale. No check mark means it is not on sale. Permanent, which just means that you won't lose it after a reset. Shop, which means the shop it's set to. The value would be the exact same thing as any other shop that you have that exists, and it would be sold there. True permanent wouldn't be here if you don't have Nico's 2.0 kit that came out. But if you're using the 2.0, you'll see true permanent as well. This just means that if this is ticked, you will not lose this weapon after a true reset, which is just 20 resets in one. And this is the weapon name itself. This is what will appear in-game. This right here is not the name of the weapon generally. It's just the name that it has in the files instead. And you never want to put spaces in this. So we're going to make burnt pan because that's what I'm making. And we'll go through everything. And since there's nothing in my game right now, we're not going to make it cost anything, but we could. Actually, I'll make it cost 10G just to show you how it works. Yeah, the description. On sale. It's not going to be a permanent weapon, which means I need a true permanent off. The first shop I have is called Example Shop. So we'll name it the exact same way it's named right up there. So we'll go into shop and, oops, didn't mean to do that. Example shop. And weapon name can have spaces in it because you're never calling to the weapon name. You're calling to the folder name if you ever need it. That's why you don't put spaces. Next is the attack tool. This is pretty easy to understand. It's really nothing important except right here. This is the texture ID. I went over this last time, but this is just the icon that will appear in the game if you open your inventory and hover over it. So I, do perp pan because that's what I'm using. But if you're using anything else, you can just upload the image into your studio using the Explorer, and you'll be fine. Next is the damage value, how much damage it does. Considering this is a hotland item, I'm going to say it will do about maybe 32. Damage modify, I changed it to 2 as you saw. This is just how much it gets increased every single time you level up. So if it does 32 on level 1, on level 2, it'll do 34. Damage increase is hard to explain, but basically it is the amount of damage boost you have when this weapon is equipped. I always say don't change this because the values are a bit weird, but basically if you have a damage increase of 1, the damage boost you have will be 10. If you have 10, it'll be 100. It goes by separate digits instead of being the, right way. I would just say don't edit it, but you can if you want to. Before we get into trail, because we need the weapon to see the trail, this is where we want to put the weapon in. So we're going to grab handle. We're going to move it from where it is to in the attack tool. This means the weapon is now in the same location. And you want to open the stick model, this one, take everything in here and put it inside the pan handle. Then remove the stick handle because you do not need it anymore. This is now the weapon that appears in game. Now, this is where the trail is. This is kind of important. One attachment is the starting point, one attachment is the ending point. It doesn't really matter what one it is because it isn't really, noticeable. And depending on how you use it, it does kind of matter. So say you're using the pan like this, a flat surface, you would want it to be angled so the trail is here instead of being on the side. It's not that bad. One way you can do this is by just copying the position and then moving it over. Oops, wrong way. I had to copy this in here. And, then the trail should work. Next is the actual trail itself. Now, when you want to see this trail, I would recommend enabling it so you can see the trail and what it looks like when it moves. This will allow you to edit the trail in any way you want to, knowing what it'll look like instead of being completely blind to what it'll look like. So you can change the color of it, you can change anything you want, like the brightness. I make my trails differently than most people do, so I'm going to edit my trail and then just see what it looks like. I like that. Next is the sound effects. So hit, slash. You can change the volume of these, the playback speed, so how slow or how fast it is. So if this is 0.5, it sounds a lot slower. You can loop it, which just means it'll never end. So, if you ever want to do that. Playing, which just means it plays when you spawn in. So I wouldn't do this, obviously. The time position, so if this track is 0.55 and I did 0.3, it would play 0.3 seconds into 0.55. So say you want to change these. It's pretty obvious. You just change the sound ID to, whatever you want it to be. So for example, if I wanted to change it to the ballet shoe, you would change the hit sound to the hit sound for that. And that'll play whenever you hit an enemy. The slash is obviously the sound it plays when it slashes. So let's say you wanted to do this, which is not the sound it comes with, obviously. I'm just doing this to show you. That's how you would do that. Next is the slash. We already went over how to make an animation in the other video, so I will not be showing making an animation in this video. So if you need to, go onto my channel and watch the first part, which is just a general overview. It's pretty much everything you need to know. But, the basics is you make an animation into dummy, and then you put it into this animation ID. After you're done with everything, you can go into the script. This is the most complicated part, and if you don't know much about Lua, I would avoid changing anything about this for now. If you know stuff about Lua, then cool. You could potentially make some stuff in here. So to explain this script, this is basically just saying the damage is activated when you press your mouse. When the mouse is activated, it gets the character and then plays the animation. So this is where the animation is, right here. So for example, when activated, it'll play this animation. It loads this animation, and then it plays it. So if you want, say, an effect to play when you swing, this is where you'd put it. So if you want the color change to play, you'd put it right after this, because this is the sound effect and this is the animation. This is the sound effect. This is the trail turning on. It says wait animation length, which just means wait for how long the animation is, and then the trail turns off. Wait 0.5 just means the cooldown of your swings. So for example, say you wanted to swing slower than what you're swinging at now, which is way too quick in my opinion. 0.5 is pretty fast. You can change it to 1 second of swinging instead, so it takes 1 second instead of 0.5 to loop. This is another part that's kind of important. This is basically the wait for hitting. This pretty much just says how fast you'll hit, but in between cooldown. So if you wanted to have something that kind of worked like Holy Stick, where it would hit multiple times with one hit, this is where you'd want to change it. I mean, for the first part, for the fact that you want it to hit more than once when you hit something, you'd want to change this to a different number. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure the bigger the number is, the less times you hit. You always want this to match the amount of time the swing speed is, unless you really want to hit more than that. But you always want to match it so you know that you're not going to double hit, because double hitting can happen. I'm going to make it 1.1, just make it a little longer than the animation. Now that you've done this, you will need to download something for this part, and I will leave it in the description of the video. You'll want to open it. Basically, you'll need to change the position of holding it, and to do that, you'll want a grip plugin. There are two good grip plugins. One is EgoMoose's plugin, which will be left in the description. This one is free. It does not cost anything to download off Roblox. And the other one you can use is Clone Trooper 1019's grip handle. And this one isn't free on Roblox. It costs 100 Robux, but you can insert it via plugin. And if you know how to do that, then it will also be in the link in the description. So if you want to support the creator and or download it for free, there you go. I recommend EgoMoose if you're new to it. It's a lot easier. You can't do as much complex stuff, but it is much easier. So I recommend using it. Basically, what you'll want to do is click the attack tool, go into plugins, and then turn it on. It'll make a model in the world to show you how it's going to be gripped. To change movement, you can look on the plugin page, but basically Z changes the movement. And since we agreed to hold it like this, he will be holding it like this. And as you can see, this is what it will look like in game when he holds it. This should be what it looks like. So now that we're done, we just turn it off. And now everything should be finished. We do not know because bugs can happen. So put it back into your weapons folder and then go into your game. Go to your shop that you named it after, which is a sample shop for me. And as you can see, it has the 10 gold. It has the everything about it, the description, the damage. So, as you can see, oh, oops, that's just a bug that happens when you don't you don't turn off the trail. You need to unenable it. That's my bad. But basically, as you can see, it you know, works the way it's supposed to. And if your model's done right, you should still be able to hit things. Nothing should be bugged. So, just to make sure, there you go. you can see mine's a little buggy because it's a flat surface, so it looks a little weird, but other than that, and the trail being enabled, that's how you make a weapon, completely from scratch with a custom model instead of using the stick model. So that's how it would be, you know, done. So thank you for watching. I know this took way too long, but I already made a video that was doing this, and it ended up bugging the audio, so I couldn't do it. So it took me a while to have the motivation to make it, but now that I'm making a joke game with a friend, I just decided that it'd be a good time to create it. So I hope this helped. Next video will probably be the creation of armor, even though armor is just a simpler version of weapons. But this will be more based off of making armor that you can see instead of just being nothing. So basically armor you can see, so you can turn the design on and off without it being weird and buggy like some other games because they don't know how to do it. So yes, thank you for watching. Subscribe if you like this content. Don't subscribe if you don't like this content, because why would you be here if you don't like it? Like the video to show me your support and tell me if you enjoy it or not. And I'll be leaving, so peace.